Some in Estonia are worried. It's because the UK, a key ally, has scaled down its military footprint in the Baltic nation by several hundred troops in the past few years. Furthermore, ERR reports that a former Estonian Defense Forces or EDF commander is claiming that the United Kingdom is struggling to meet NATO Eastern Flank commitments. We take a look at what's going on for today's video. Just a few years ago, the UK had many more troops deployed to Estonia to reassure its NATO ally and stand as a deterrent against neighbouring Russia. In April 2022, the UK had deployed as many as 1,650 troops to Estonia, but these days it's down to just 1,000. That's bad enough, but when you consider that the UK's Defence Minister in June 2022 committed to sending as many as 2,650 soldiers, well, it's a rather worrying trend. To make matters worse, the UK's earlier plan to keep its heavy mechanised 12th Brigade as a high readiness reserve for Estonia was replaced with the lighter 4th Brigade. Another worry has been that if a peacekeeping force were to be deployed to Ukraine, that the UK would redeploy its Estonia-based soldiers to this mission. And so, what's going on with the UK and its ability to send troops and firepower to NATO's eastern flank? Well, a certain member of Estonian Parliament, who was once the chief of the Estonian Defense Forces for 7 years, told Times Radio that the UK had experienced difficulty in assembling a brigade-sized force to take part in a major upcoming exercise in Estonia. The difficulties are said to stem from financial issues. With some Estonians worried, the UK's Secretary of State for Defence, John Healey, confirmed that if the UK were to send its own security forces to Ukraine, it would not be at the expense of the promises made to Estonia. Healey tells ERR that he is personally committed to Estonia and NATO's entire eastern flank. When asked about the upcoming exercise and the plan to deploy the UK's 4th Brigade, Healey said things are still happening with probably 2,500 troops coming to Estonia. But again, this is just an exercise and not a longer-term stationing of all of these UK forces. And when asked about a possible redeployment of British forces to Ukraine, Healey told ERR, quote, "Any deployment, any commitment we make as part of the coalition of the willing will not be at the expense of our work with our forces on the border with you in Estonia. And that's a commitment that your minister knows about because we've discussed it. It's a commitment I make as UK Defence Secretary." And then, when asked by ERR about the swapping of the 12th Brigade for the lighter 4th Brigade, Healey stated that this was the agreed-upon plan. It's likely because the UK's military is currently undergoing modernization, replacing Challenger 2 tanks with newer models and upgrading infantry fighting vehicles, armoured carriers, and self-propelled artillery. Going back to a late 2024 interview with a researcher at the UK's Royal United Services Institute, it was explained, establishing the readiness of the 12th Brigade, given that it is part of the 3rd Division, which represents the UK's main contribution to NATO, they can't maintain it at high readiness while also ensuring it's available for deployment. This likely explains the change. It was added that the Boxer armoured personnel carriers are scheduled for initial deployment only in 2026, and the Ajax infantry fighting vehicles are likely to follow later. And then the Challenger 3 tanks won't be fully operational until 2030. Nonetheless, when asked if the 4th Brigade would be the long-term choice for Estonia, Healey told ERR that the conversation should be less about specific units and more about the capabilities that are available and deployable, saying, "Our new capabilities will be your capabilities." Just for greater context on the current relationship between the two countries, the UK-Estonia roadmap, signed in October 2024, includes the following commitments: transitioning the UK's allocated brigade from 12th Brigade to 4th Brigade, including a French battle group; support for the development of Estonia's deep fire capabilities; divisional enhancements including multiple launch rocket systems in Estonia; aligned attack aviation and support staff in Estonia; and the introduction of capabilities like Archer artillery, Challenger 3 tanks, and Ajax and Boxer armoured vehicles as they enter service, and more. And so it sounds like there is a somewhat reasonable explanation for the change of the UK's High Readiness Brigade committed to Estonia, but not much of a direct explanation as to why there are far fewer British troops stationed in the country when compared to a commitment made in 2022. Of course, when you see headlines like this, explaining that the British Army is on course to fall to its lowest number of personnel in more than 230 years, well, it kind of makes sense. Ultimately, it does seem like the UK remains committed to Estonia, but it's just not at the level that Estonia had expected based on past agreements. Nonetheless, we're sure Estonians overall are grateful for the UK's continued commitment and presence in their country. What do you think of the UK's current level of commitment when it comes to an armed presence in Estonia? Let us know by leaving a comment.